It's like people with motorcycles. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we as parrot owners need to be responsible, and we need to make sure that we are our parrots' best advocates. And taking our birds outside, whether they're clipped or untrained and flighted, is really irresponsible. Good morning, everyone. Now I know that the title of this video may seem a bit clickbaity, but I'm here to tell you that it isn't. Recently, weirdly enough, me as well as my other colleagues at Nerdy Bird Collective have been getting the same horrible, tragic story, not only on Instagram, but in real life. Random people, when they hear that I work with birds, end up telling me the worst things possible about birds, as well as my coworkers. The story goes a little bit like, yeah, I brought my bird outside thinking that there was enough love and trust and bonding between the two of us. Something scared the bird flew away, never to be seen again. I'm not only getting this on Instagram, but in real life, as well as with clients that I've been helping in consultations. So it is an important subject to talk about. It's also a personal subject for me. I had a bird get loose when I was really young, and it was really traumatizing and horrible for me. I loved this cockatiel so much. He flew away because he got out of the cage, and I did see him up in the trees for a while in my neighborhood. He actually got eaten by a hawk. True story. Horrible, tragic story. So I'm here to talk about the safe ways that we can take our birds outside, as well as in my last video, we went over diet, food, all that good stuff. If you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend the last two videos we did. I'll link them below. But if you are on TOPS or the seasonal feeding system, it is important that your bird gets vitamin D, and the best way for your bird to get vitamin D is to be outside, weather permitting. So that's also why I wanted to bring this up. I've kind of broken my ways of getting your bird outside into 3 categories. They're a bit subjective because this is just from my personal experience. Everyone's birds are so different, and just keep that in mind as I go over like the cheapest, easiest way, the middle ground, and then like the most expensive, most difficult way to get your bird outside. Please don't take your bird outside if you don't have the proper training. Even if your bird is clipped, some of the worst stories are from clipped birds getting nabbed by hawks. Oh, speak of the devil. Come here. Bogey might not be able to be in this video because he's been a bit aggressive when I've been filming. So we'll see how he does, and if he needs to go away, he can. But he was just chilling in our bathroom right now. Some of the worst stories that I have heard are from people taking their unclipped bird outside. The bird has no defense, and it's really scary, and if a hawk does come, the bird usually just flutters 10 feet away from the human, and then the hawk will get it. It's really bad. So don't take your bird outside if he's clipped. I used to do this with Bogey. Big rookie mistake. Luckily nothing ever happened to him. And the other thing I want to say is don't take your bird outside if the bird is not properly recall or free flight trained. It's not worth it. It's really, really not worth it. So many people that I've spoken with say, oh, I thought that the bird loved me enough. I thought that we had enough of a trust and a bond. I thought that the bird would just come back. That's what they do in my house. When you take your bird outside, there's so many other variables, so much is going on. There's so many noises and movements and objects that your bird has not been desensitized to. And oftentimes, and in all these stories that I've heard recently, it's the bird gets scared, flies off, and most likely they haven't been trained to come back. They don't know how to come back. It has nothing to do with your love and connection. It literally has everything to do with your bird's skills and if they're capable of coming back to you or not. Sadly, most of the time, unless you've spent tons of hours in training and research, the bird doesn't come back. The bird will get eaten by some sort of predator or taken by another human. So now we're gonna get into the various ways you can safely take your bird outside to get the vitamin D, to take your bird along with you. Because I know the issue is like you want to create enrichment and you want to create awesome opportunity for your bird to spend time with you. And it's not like we spend all of our waking moments in our house. So you want to figure out, how do I take my bird outside? I want to spend this quality time with my bird. I've been there. So I have a little list, and first I'm going to go with the cheapest and easiest way you could take your bird outside. And remember, this is kind of subjective. So the first is a carrier cage. If I go to my in-laws' house or my mom's house, a lot of times I'll just take Bogey in his carrier cage so he can spend a little time outside while I'm doing things with my family. Unfortunately, the carrier cage that I got was from Cage World and they shut down a while ago, not sure why, but just do your research. There's plenty of awesome carrier cages that you can get. And I do have to say, before you just stick your bird in a new cage, make sure that you desensitize them to the cage and make sure that they're comfortable in it. I have a desensitization video that I will link above as well. The second option is taking your bird out in a bird backpack. Now I have a bird backpack review that I also link above. And again, disclaimer, you definitely want to train your bird to use this. You don't want to just expect your bird to be okay with this. It could really freak your bird out if you just try to cram he or she in this without any training. But this is a great way to get your bird outside so they can see the world, go on adventures with you. I will link, obviously, everything I'm speaking about below in the description. I really enjoy this backpack. It's a good quality one. It's definitely on the less expensive side when it comes to bird carrier backpacks. Some backpacks can be really expensive. So the third option for the easiest and cheapest, and I say this with hesitancy because it is the Aviator Harness, which I have right here. So I've used a few harnesses in the past, and this one is definitely the one that I like the best. I really like this company. It's American made, it's the most simple design, and it's the most lightweight. So I really, really like this harness. Now, I have to say, I have to tattle on myself here that when I got Bogey, did not do the proper training with this. I really screwed up and I forced Bogey into the harness. And I say this with shame because I don't like to admit the mistakes that I've made. However, I tell you this because I don't want you to make the same mistake. This is a very inexpensive way to get your bird outside and it's the most convenient and the most fun. However, it is maybe not the easiest. You do need to spend lots of time desensitizing your bird and getting your bird used to this before you put this on your bird. So important. They provide so much help. They provide videos like this instruction manual. I ignored it and I thought, oh, if I put it on Bogey and he sees how much fun we have outside, it'll all be okay. That there's nothing further from the truth. He is scarred from this. And I think that I'm going to try to start training him very slowly. And maybe in like 5 years, he'll let me put this on him. Legitimately, that's how much I traumatized him. So it has nothing to do with this harness. It's a great harness. It was all my bad. And if you end up wanting to get this harness, I say go for it and just do the proper training. So many birds out there use this harness and I get jealous because I'm like, wow, they look so happy. And it would be so nice for me to be able to just take Bogey out to lunch on his harness. But unfortunately, I have to use the backpack, which is not the worst. The other thing about the backpack too is you're probably not going to get as much vitamin D exposure through the backpack. There is mesh, and I'm sure some sun can get through this, but it's not obviously the same as like having your bird just out in the sun soaking up all the rays. This is maybe a very inexpensive way to get your bird outside. However, the amount of time needed to train your bird is vital, and that might be overwhelming for some people. Also, it just depends on the species of bird and your bird's personality. I know some people who just like in one day could get their bird comfortably in this Aviator harness, whereas like other people, other species of birds don't like to be touched, are uncomfortable with certain things, and then it takes longer. Okay, moving on to kind of the middle stage of what I'm talking about is you can build an aviary. And I say this is like middle ground because obviously aviaries are more expensive. You still have to be cautious with aviaries because I have heard, believe it or not, more horror stories about people who left their bird outside in a cage or aviary and a predator came and pulled the bird through the bars of the cage. Whether this is like a raccoon, even like a falcon or a hawk, there's a lot of predators out there, and what we're doing is taking a flock animal kind of out of its natural habitat with a bunch of other birds flying around. That's like their biggest form of defense, is like having that flock, and you're putting him outside in a cage where, again, this bird is kind of defenseless against a raptor or, you know, a raccoon or a cat. So we just want to be really careful with aviaries. If you do decide to build an aviary for your parrot, you just want to make sure that it's secure enough for animals not to be able to get through. If you do decide to go with the aviary, you really do your research and you create an aviary that's safe for your parrot, for whatever your lifestyle is, whether that's you're putting your bird in the aviary, but you're going to be outside watching the cage the whole time, versus like you're putting your bird in the aviary and going inside and not really paying any attention. You just want to make sure that you are setting it up for success, because believe it or not, aviaries can be dangerous if they're not set up properly. And lastly, the most work and the most expensive is getting your bird free flight trained, which let me explain. I don't think that every bird is a great candidate for free flight. However, I do think every bird is a candidate for recall training. I'm saying free flight training is the most work and the most expensive. You don't necessarily have to do free flight training. I personally don't take Bogey outside unless I'm with my free flight group. This usually takes place 2.5 hours away from me. It's this whole big deal where it's like, it's not like this casual thing where I could just take Bogey outside on a walk or take him to a park. I've done that before and we got swooped by a hawk and I learned my lesson. It's something that's beautiful and fun, and if you live in a certain place where you can take your bird out more and you have a community that's close and it's convenient, then that's wonderful. It's not the most convenient for me, and we do have to commit to a lot of driving, and it was a lot of work getting Bogey to the point where he's at now. However, I just recommend that everyone recall train their parrot or their bird or their budgie. Whatever bird it is, recall train them, because I've seen Bogey actually not escape. He was out in my parents' yard and he flew off, and despite the dogs barking and like not being in an open area, he came back really well because of the amount of work that we put into his recall. The other thing I recommend people do is set your house up so your bird has enrichment. Your bird can fly to different perches. Some of the perches should be moving perches. Some perches should be like natural branches. I can't talk right now. Some perches should be fat, skinny. Just give your bird the most opportunity for enrichment. And if your bird does escape and he lands up in a tree, you know that that bird is used to something different than the perches in his or her cage, you know? So we're just setting the bird up for success to build on these skills, build confidence. So if something does happen where the bird flies away, they're gonna be more confident to come back to you. That's the ultimate goal. You don't have to get a free flight trainer to indoor recall your bird. You can also set up a consultation with me at Nerdy Bird Collective where we go over all that good stuff and I'm your support. That's about it for today, you guys. I hope this helps. And again, please don't take your bird outside if it's in a dangerous spot or you think that anything wrong could happen, because chances are that thing could happen. It's like people with motorcycles. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we as parrot owners need to be responsible, and we need to make sure that we are our parrot's best advocates. And taking our birds outside, whether they're clipped or untrained and flighted, is really irresponsible. So I hope that this helps. If I've left anything out, please put them in the comments for the other followers and our community to see. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching our YouTube videos. By watching our videos, you directly support Bogey and I, which we greatly appreciate. If you want to see even more content bird related, please be sure to check out our website, nerdybirdcollective.com, where we have free guides. You can subscribe and get updates through blogs. You can also reach me directly on our Instagram, which is Bogey the Galah. I personally reach out to everyone who messages me with a response in a timely fashion. Thanks again, and hope to see you soon.